Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Lamp. I'm your host, James Lampkin, and my guest today is the clerk of the Circuit Court for the Prince George's County, the Honorable Mahasin El Amin. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, let me say thank you because you showed me a lot of patience because we were supposed to do this, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago, maybe longer.
hmm hmm A long time ago, yes.
But I told you before we started recording, I feel like it's God's timing because you're getting ready to run again
Yeah. Oh, not getting ready. I'm running.
and I didn't even put I did put the title in there. I just wanted to make
Mhm.
sure.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be completely honest. I have no idea what that entails. So before we do anything, please just tell me what that means.
I wish like I could probably say I can like someone give me $1 for every time someone says that exact same phrase, that exact same lead up to the question of I don't know what the clerk of the circuit court does because it's a very common question, a very common feeling, and most people don't know what the clerk's office does, what the clerk actually does. And so don't feel bad. You're in good company. We
Oh,
actually have attorneys who don't even know what my office does, and they use my office all the time. So it's okay. We are the administrative arm of the court. We are the record keeper, the heartbeat of the courthouse. We maintain the circuit courts, the integrity of their records. So every sheet of paper well, it's not even paper anymore. We're on electronic filing, but all the documents that come through to the circuit court, it starts in my office and it finishes in my office. We are I would say, like I said, we're the heartbeat of the courthouse. So you can't have a court proceeding or anything without the circuit court clerk's office. We divorces, like civil cases, so your accidents, your motor vehicle accidents, your slip and fall, your jury trials. We process, the indictments. We, when you get like official court record, you have the clerk's office stamp on there and my name. We issue summonses. So we process all of its documents. We also are the JOP, Justice of the Peace. We issue marriage licenses and we actually marry people. Actually, I got a DM the other day from someone that went to Suitland, and he was like, "I got a kick out of it. I looked at my marriage certificate, and your name was on it." I'm like, "I'm always with you till death do us part," the kind of deal. So I am forever etched in people's lives. So yeah, so we do marriage certificates, business licenses. We are also the recorder of deeds. So anytime you purchase property or anything that has to do with property records in Prince George's County comes through my office. My staff is responsible for the jury office. So yes, you need to make sure that you fulfill your civic duty and and when you're called to sit on a jury or you're called for jury service, please do your civic duty and be a juror, because if something were to happen, you would want someone uh, to want to be there if you had to go into court and have a jury trial. Oftentimes you're not called, it's a free day from work. I've been called 3 times and I haven't made it out of the jury lounge, unfortunately. We also administer the oath of office. So anybody who is elected or appointed by the governor to serve on a commissioner board, or appointed by the county executive to serve on a commissioner board. Public safety, so your police officers, your fire departments, your firefighters, your Department of Corrections, they are all administered the oath of office. That's my office. We are one of the oldest elected positions under the Maryland Constitution. So we collect a lot of money for the state and for the county, and that's in a nutshell. That is what the clerk's office does. We do a lot.
how long have you held the position?
I was first elected in 2018, surprisingly. It's been 8 years. Time flies when you're having fun. So yeah, it's a 4-year term, and the positions in the courthouse. So your register of wills, your sheriff's office, or your sheriff, your state's attorney, and your clerk, and even your orphans court judges. They are not term limited.
Also, you could just keep doing this forever.
I could if the voters would have me, and if I choose to run for forever. Yes, I could stay. As long as the voters were to have me, I could stay in the seat.
I gotta back up to something you said because I found this really interesting. You said you still get called for jury duty?
Everyone gets called for jury duty. You'll be surprised the people that come through that I've had and you'll be surprised the calls that I get for people to try to get out state legislators, the attorney general. If you are a resident of the state of Maryland and you qualify to serve as a juror, yes, you get summoned to appear. We've had judges called to serve on jury duty. I know some judges who have served on as a juror, including actually my dad. He's a retired judge. He served on a jury. Sometimes they want judges to be there because it can go either way, but it can kind of help push a panel to make a good decision or the right decision.
So, do you think the lawyers want you to serve or they don't want you to serve?
I would hope they would want me to serve. I would hope they would think that I was fair and impartial, and I would listen to the facts and determine, make an opinion based off of the facts that are presented and the evidence. But I never get called. I mean, I get the number, I show up, and I wait and I wait and I wait, and they're like, "Thank you for your service. You can go home."
You good.
Okay, good.
So I was saying, would you be surprised? Would you actually be surprised if they called you?
I would love it. I mean, it would make me feel accomplished. The last time I served for jury duty, I was very disappointed. I was like, yo, I'm here. I was rambunctious. I was telling my staff I'm going to jury duty. It's time, but no cigar.
Oh, so you wanted to do it.
Oh, I do. Yes. How can I go out in public and tell people to serve on jury duty and I don't want to do it? Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, the reason I asked because I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I was a judge, I don't know if I would want to do jury duty.
People look, yes. I don't know what this mystique is, or this I guess this desire not to want to serve, or thinking that you're not able to, render a decision. But it's actually quite fascinating to be in difference on different sides. It's I don't know of any judge who has been called to jury duty who says they don't want to serve.
I think what it is for me, if I was a judge, for me personally, I probably would be listening to the case more as a lawyer as opposed to just a regular civilian, because you as a lawyer, you're so trained to know what to look for. And I just feel like I personally would be critiquing the lawyer, like maybe I wouldn't have said it this way, or whereas right now I'm just a regular contract worker, and I could just listen to the case with no training, and I could just be like, you know what?
But you would take your experiences. You listen to the facts, but you would take your experiences into play, right? So, if you see a lawyer that's, not acting right, you're going to be like, this lawyer's acting a fool. I don't think I can trust. You use your common sense. You just don't just say, I'm going to listen to what they present to me, and I'm not going to take, common sense into consideration, right? Like like if the facts present themselves and someone is guilty, or that person ran a red light, it was clear the person ran a red light, like it was bright as day and everyone's testifying that they ran a red light, and the defendant is like, no, I didn't run a red light. You're gonna be like, common sense, everyone else said he did it.
I'm gonna get back to your turn. So you've been clerk of the court for 8 years. Um, I guess you still have a high passion to do it.
It is, it's surprisingly, it has been an incredible experience. I have a staff of almost 200 wonderful people. And, being a lawyer by trade, I understand and I have an appreciation for the law. I have appreciation for the fact that people come into the courthouse and it's, good things happen in the courthouse, adoptions, sometimes name changes, marriages, but it's not necessarily tended to, people don't look at the courthouse as a nice place or a good place or a positive environment. It's a complicated system and it's scary. And my staff is the face of the courthouse. I mean, you see judges, but you go into the courtroom, that's when you see a judge. You can't, go and walk up to the judge and just, talk about your case, right? You can't, I mean, that's illegal. And you can't talk to a lawyer unless you retain them, you can get maybe like a consultation, but my staff, they're the ones that answer the questions. They're the ones that have the direct uh, contact with the millions of people that come into the courthouse annually. And to know that I'm using my talents in a way that serves my county and the county that raised me, it gives me joy. It really does. I mean, and I've been able to meet some incredible people that I would never have been able to meet. 499 square miles is Prince George's County. And I like to think that I've been through it all, but I haven't. I mean, all the way from Laurel to a place called Eagle Harbor, waterfront property, Black community. They're amazing people down there. But there's still so much that I can explore. And I've been able to be in rooms that I probably would not have been able to be in. I'm able to, help the residents navigate the court system, answer questions, like I was out the other day with a friend and she was like, "Can you help me, like my friend's doing this guardianship case and it's been like 2.5 weeks." Da, 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 da. And I'm like, "Okay, well that doesn't sound right, but there's a process." I said, send me what you have." So she sent me what was supposed to be filed, the actual case, and I had my staff look into it, and it come to find out the attorney never filed the case.
Mm.
So here is, a person who was, waiting for a summons, and their attorney, almost 2.5 weeks later is just like, didn't file it. So, being able to offer that assistance, which is, really cool. And then also being able to brag about the courthouse. I get to go around the community and tell people what I do and all the wonderful things that happen in the courthouse. I have interns and young newly graduates or people fresh out of graduates from college, fresh out of high school. They start their career in the clerk's office. They're introduced to the judicial branch of government, which is a separate body of government, one of the three branches. And I'm playing a part in like our democracy. Like, you can't get any better than that.
What made you decide to initially pursue the position?
I was practicing. I practiced for 9 years. Was practicing for 9 years, and it was going to be an open seat. And I knew, like, politics, the political process, the legislative process always interests me. But I probably should have taken more classes in undergrad, but I didn't. Um, and I worked on when I was when was that? I think I was in law school and I was door knocking for then Senator Obama. I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, I liked that vibe, that that hustle and that interaction with the community. And then when I could not get a job after I was a clerk with Judge Woodard. She's an associate circuit court judge, retired, Judge Beverly Woodard. I was her clerk for a year, and she wouldn't let me stay on. She said, "You're only the clerkship is only 1 year." I begged, whatever. It didn't work out. And, I couldn't get a job. I was interviewing all these, but it was during an election cycle. So it was in 2010. So I worked on uh, Derek Leon Davis's campaign for county council District 6. And then as a result, I also worked on Rashawn Baker's county executive race. So I'm like, I mean, it's fast moving. It's like, the hustle and bustle. It's like, this is kind of cool, but that's the election part of it. And then I started practicing, and I was still sort of involved in politics, but I didn't know anything. I waited tables when I was in law school and when I was in college and then when I was in high school. So I really like customer service. I'm being able to provide a service is really cool. And you're always, as a lawyer, you're always in the clerk's office. I mean, and I was like, I could do that. Literally, I think one day I was talking to a clerk. It might have. I think I was talking to the Sidney Harrison, who wasn't the clerk at the time, but he was working in the office. And I was like, I could do this. So when I found out that it was going to be an open seat, I worked for our former Senate president in his law firm, Mike Miller. And, I was like, Mike, I think I want to run for clerk. And I said that like maybe 2 years before things were getting ready to kick off. And he comes in and he was like, Mahasin, what do you think about running for clerk? I said, are you trying to get rid of me? It's like, no, 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 girlfriend. No, I think you'll be really good at it. And then I said, okay. So I used it as a way to still do something that I knew that I could do well at, use my talents, and give back to the community that raised me. But I had no idea everything that it entailed. I had no clue, no clue, none whatsoever. But like I said, it's given me an inside view of our process, of our legislative process, our executive process, and it's just been I've learned so much, and there's still so much to learn. I mean, I'm going I with my colleagues, because there's 24 elected clerks in Maryland, and we we go up to the state legislator to legislature to lobby for changes in our bills, or sorry, in our laws. So I've testified at hearings, and so that's kind of cool. I got to lobby a whole bunch of legislators, and I've been able to hobnob with both governors, Hogan and Westmore, and be in rooms with them and learn from them and listen to them. Same thing with the county executives, state's attorneys, our county council members, our mayors. We have so many municipalities in our county that really touch people's lives every single day, and to know that process, to know budget, to know how things move, how you get things done that impact our lives on a daily basis. It's like it's incredible. I mean, school board, all that stuff.
You talk about growing up in PG County. What makes you so proud? Because we get, especially unfortunately, the education system gets a bad rep, but you're a product of the education system. And judging by your credentials, you're the main judge, you clerk of the court. Clearly, something went right with the education system. So
Yeah,
I wanted you
yeah.
to talk more about that.
Okay. Well, just want to be clear. My dad's a retired judge. I'm not a judge. I've only been a lawyer. But I'm a proud Prince Georgian. Um, there's no place like this county. We're vibrant. We have a lot of energy. We are aware. I went to school at the University of Florida, and I went to a PWI, coming from Suitland High School, which was, we might have had like 10 others, 10 others out of the whole class. So you can imagine the culture shock when I walked in and I'm like, I'm the only Black person in this classroom of like 400 people. I think I had four Black professors during my entire career there. But, I was different. I I still had that, I'm not from the city, but it was like a fast way of thinking. I was always thriving, or, there was always a desire to do better, to do more, instead of just like, oh, I'm just going to stay in my little bubble and just worry about what's happening in my bubble. I'm worrying about what's going on in the surrounding areas. It was cool that I could go to DC, that I could go to Virginia. You can't do that in Florida. And it's just like my class, the class of 99, we were the best class. We had so much greatness coming out of that class. I mean, what my classmates are doing, they've danced with, Theater of Harlem. They've been in the Lion King. I was in the performing arts program. They're principals. We're doing so much. And yes, we get so much focus is on the negative, but there's so many other positive things that come out of Prince George's County that is not on the news, because news is sensationalized, right? And it's ever going to be clickbait now. And someone getting $40,000 in scholarships isn't salacious enough to make the news, but that's what's happening. And we just have like, we get educated differently. And when I say educated, I don't mean in the literal sense. I mean, we get educated on life, I feel like, differently than other places, because we are just surrounded by so much, that, like, you don't get it in Atlanta. You don't get it in other metropolitan areas. It's just like no place like Prince George's County.
What made you decide to go to Florida for school?
El Nino. So when I'll never forget, way back when, used to have like the book of like universities. It used to be a book, and it just have a list of universities and the numbers, and you have to call them or mail or write a letter to them, and they'll send you information about them. So I was in Latin class, Dr. Abbott's class, and I had my little book, and it was like, I think it was like snow one day, then it was nice another day, and it was just going just like now. It was like back and forth. I said, to heck with this. Actually, I was like, to hell with this. I'm going to Florida. So I applied to University of Miami, which is a private institution, and at the time it was $30,000 a year. God knows what it is now. University of Central Florida, which is in Orlando, University of Florida, and University of Maryland College Park was my safe school. I got into all four, and I'm the last of seven. I was the last of one, two, three. So I was the last of four to go to college. And um, Miami wasn't giving me any money. And my dad was like, yo, you ain't going to Miami. I was like, come on now. And I mean, my sister went to NYU. My other sister was in Spelman, or my other sister had graduated from University of Maryland. She started at Eastern Shore, and they were like, yeah, we ain't got no more money. So you ain't going to Miami. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to join the Air Force, because I was like all or nothing kind of thing. But that was during Kosovo. And I was like, yeah, no, I ain't trying to get shipped off to no foreign country. So I had already put all my paperwork in for University of Maryland. And my dad made some calls, whatever, and he was like, yo, University of Florida is going to give you a whole bunch of money, but you just have to start in the summer, because I got accepted on a conditional basis. My GPA was decent, my SAT score sucked, and that's when you have an affirmative action. And so the program AIM, it was targeted to minority students who just needed probably a little bit more help in transitioning into college. So I went for 6 weeks. I went in. So I drove down sight unseen, getting ready to start class in like 3 days. I just knew I was going to Florida, and I didn't have a place to stay. I mean, we packed up the van and everything, didn't have a place to stay. And, my parents went to the registrar's office. I got me a dorm, and they paid for me to go and take 6 credits. Like they covered my room and board, 6 credits, and I like ended up with like, I want to say like $3,000 left over, like in my bank account. So they paid me to go to school.
Wow.
And I dropped my math class because I didn't do well in it. So I got 3 credits out of it, right? And God works His magic, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. But when I went down, I was like, I knew nothing about Gainesville, nothing. I went down there, I was like, what the hell? Because it's in the swamp. I was like, what is going on? Not to mention there were no black people, or only a little bit of black people, but it was an incredible experience. That's the kind of person I am. I just sometimes I just go with it. I just make really major decisions. It's like, we'll see what happens.
Was that a tough trip? Because Suling, like you said, probably was maybe it wasn't that many. It was pretty much
No,
all black. And then in PG where we live, PG County, pretty much all black. And then you go to pretty much where there's no black. So was that a tough transition?
I mean, it was a cult. Like that was probably the first time I've ever had culture shock, because I
Mm,
was just like, what is this? And University of Florida, it's not an easy school to get into, right? So we had a lot of people who were very well off, people driving their Range Rovers, and you got all of the stereotypical versions of non-blacks there. I was just like, what is going on? So, but that program that I was in, because I was a minority, it kind of, and there was another minority program, it put us all together, so I had a sense of community, right?
mm.
And so I found my people there, because there was only so many of us, right? So, I was able, and I did a whole bunch of stuff. I love anybody and everybody, and I could hang out with the best of them. I could party with the best of them. But I definitely enjoyed, really understanding my culture more, because there was only a few of us, embracing it. Like, growing up, we, a Haitian, we're like, what's that? Oh my God. My roommate was Haitian. I was just like, yes, rice and peas, baby, making the plants, so like embracing the island culture, like the Caribbean culture, that it was an awakening for me. So it was a great experience. It just yes, it took a little bit time. You have that. If you did have that one person, there was a guy, uh Jeff, he was from New York, and we sat next to each other during orientation. So we were like this the entire time, because there's not a lot of us. And he was like, oh, you're from Maryland, you're from Prince George's County, do you know a girl named Sonia King? And I was like, do you know how many black people are in Prince George's County? No, I don't know. That Jeff Cherry was his name. I was like, no. I was like, look at you. I was like, what? Not all black people know each other, right? But come to find out, Sonia King. Actually, no, she wasn't. Sonia King was her. No, is it Sonia Gomes? See, there's Sonia Gomes or Sonia King. She actually ended up working at the public defender's office when I was there in law school. So later on in life, I actually met the person that he asked me if I knew. Like,
Wow.
so it's just crazy. Like, 8 years later, it's just how things work. So we do know each other. Eventually we're gonna come across each other now, I guess.
Was there ever a point in time that you questioned your decision to go there?
No, not
Wow.
at all. Not at all. I went down, when my parents dropped me off, my mom said, you don't have to stay here, Mahasin. You can come back with us if you want to. I was like, no, I'm good. We're good. And the rest is history. I came home one summer, and after that, I just stayed down in Gainesville. It was great.
When did you know you wanted to be a lawyer?
So my dad always told me that I was going to go to law school, that I was going to be a lawyer. Like I remember he would pick me up late. He was always, the man was always late picking me up from extracurricular activities. You remember when you used to call home, we used to call 1-800 dial ATT to make those collect calls. He has call, pick me up, dad, pick me up. Right. So he'd always pick me up late. And I'll never forget driving down Middleton Lane. And he's just like, you're gonna be a lawyer. I was like, no, I ain't gonna be a lawyer because I never see you. Because I was like, I only see you. I'm a daddy's girl. And I would only see him at his office or on the golf course. He would always take me out to go golfing and I get to drive the golf cart. And he's like, "You're gonna go to law school?" I was like, "Nah, I'm in the performing arts. I like this behind the scenes stuff. I'm gonna go into TV production. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm a TV production." And then so I'm in my first year in college, racking up student loans. And my sister, who graduated from NYU, my parents were supporting her. My other sister in Atlanta, she was working and struggling. And I was just like, yeah, nah, we ain't gonna be doing this. I was like, I'm not gonna make no money in TV production. Nope. So I called him my first semester. I was like, yeah, dad, I think I'm gonna be a lawyer. So it was my first year, and because I was at the time I hadn't declared my major, but I knew I was going to be a journalism major, and I ended up majoring in public relations. So that's when I knew was my first semester when I had to really be analytical with how I was going to support myself when I graduated college.
Because your dad was a lawyer, and then he eventually elevated to judge. Was he a judge while you was in college?
Yes, he was elected to the district court, or appointed. Sorry, he was appointed in the district court in 2000. So it was
Okay.
my first. I was a freshman in college when he was appointed to the district court.
I asked that because did it put any pressure on you? Because it's almost like you following in his footsteps, and I mean, making it the judge, that's a hell of a feat. So,
Yeah. So, I was a proud daughter of a judge. When I would come home from school or come up from Florida, I would go and visit him in his courtroom, and I would just sit in the courtroom and just listen to other attorneys, right? And they would say to their defendant or to their clients, this is a cool judge. Like he'll joke with you, but he'll listen to you. He's fair. Just answer and be honest. And he may not give us what we want, but we know that he's a fair judge. So he had a great reputation. And I never wanted to be that daughter, or associated with somebody in my family where people like despise them. There were judges that when I practiced, I would walk into, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a day. I'm like, there's nothing we can do. I'm sorry. I'm going to try, but this is what we got. And so to have a father that people respected and that people looked up to, not saying that everyone liked him and things like that, but he had a great reputation. So when I graduated, law school, people always tell me have a plan, have goals. So my goals was get a clerkship, get a job, work, try a case, do whatever. So I achieved my goals, and I clerked. I was working with Maryland Legal Aid in their metro office as a domestic attorney, and I just got to the point. I was like, what's next? I'm like stuck. I mean, and they don't adults don't tell us this. Adults don't say like you're going to have moments in your life where you don't feel fulfilled, like you've reached a point where you've achieved your goals, or you've maxed out and you're like lost, right? You don't know what's happening. And with my dad and I in the same circle, the same legal circle, I was always being introduced as, this is Judge El Amin's daughter. Like it's like I had no identity, right? So I had like my college, and one of the reasons why I liked going away was because I started anew. No one knew me down in Gainesville until I was introducing, they got to know me. but I didn't have any, like, I didn't come down there with friends. I knew nobody. So I started off fresh. It was great. And to have your own identity and, being able to do things your way and be your own individual person, and then having to come to an environment where I felt like my identity, and it was fine. But at the time, my identity was associated with, this is Judge El Amin's daughter. I wanted to, see what I could do on my own accord, like make my own mark. And so I took the Georgia bar. And so I was working with legal aid, what, like maybe 3.5 years when I sat for the Georgia bar, because I was like, I'm moving to Atlanta because DC had been gentrified. When I came back from Florida, I went to go to law school, because I came back in 2006 to go to University of Baltimore. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna live in the city, da 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 da. I'll be with my people, Chocolate City. And I came to Baltimore, and I came to DC. I was like, what happened? Like where's my community? Like, I've been away for so long, right? I'm thinking, okay, it's time for me to have my community. I'm like, what? And so I was like, I'm gonna go to Atlanta. So I took the Georgia bar, passed the Georgia bar, and my dad was like, yo, like, I have like laid the foundation. I've paved the way for you. As I've created a legacy for you. You would be a fool, like, not to, take advantage of that, because that's what they do. That's
Hmm.
that everyone else does it. So, he's like, filling out a job application because of the relationships that you have made and that I have made should be a formality. So, if you go, he was like, you can go to Atlanta, but when you're ready, and I was still young, in my early 30s. If you if when you go to Atlanta and when you come back, you have to start back in the back of the line. You're gonna have to reintroduce yourself.
Mm. Mm.
And I'll never forget, one day he came home and he was just like, Hassan, I got the perfect opportunity for you. And I was just like, what? He's like, I got the perfect law firm. They're looking for an associate. She was in my courtroom today, and they're family oriented. Da, 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 da. And it was Mike Miller's office. And so I went in there, and I don't know if you're familiar with Mike Miller, Joe Valerio, those names in the legal system, but they were like the mover and shakers. Like, if you got a DUI, if you got something, you go to Valerio, you go to Mike Miller, whatever. So it was like, I felt like they had one of those neon open signs on their window, and it was just like, I mean, clients coming in. I was like, whoa, this is popping, this is happening. And I was like, I want a job, and the rest is, was history. So there was I wouldn't say pressure, and the pressure, that if there was pressure, it was pressure that I was putting on myself, because my dad was nothing but supportive, but it was just trying to figure out who Mahasin was, and if I could stand on my credentials and my reputation. And now it's so funny, because when we go out, now he's introduced as, this is Mahasin's dad. So the roles are reversed.
Were you doing well in Atlanta?
I never went. I took the
Oh, you never
bar.
went. Okay,
I took the
okay.
bar. I took the bar. I passed the bar. I never officially did anything to become admitted to the bar. But
Oh,
I
okay,
was
okay.
making my way to go there. I mean, I took off work for a month to study for the bar, and went down there and took the bar, and I was rocking and rolling.
So when you say that, right, you took the bar, you passed it, but there's another step you have to take after you pass it.
Yeah, they got to make sure you got to pay an application. You got to pay to be admitted. You have to do like an ethical background check and things like that, and then you have to take an oath of office, depending on the state that you're admitted to.
Mm.
So yeah, the test is just the first, is, well, law school application, sitting for the bar, passing for the bar. Then you have to, then there's all this other stuff before you are admitted to the bar. It's kind of like med school,
And
becoming a doctor.
do you already had your bar in Maryland, or you had to?
I had been
Oh,
practicing. I had been practicing. Yep.
okay,
And
okay.
I said, this is, one of the many things you say never. I was just like, I'm never gonna take another bar after I was like, I ain't never taking a bar. But never say never.
So okay, so you decided not to do that final step.
Nope, because I had a great job. My dad landed me and put me in a room in a great position, and I would have been a fool not to take it.
Yeah,
And
that makes. When did that feeling go away of feeling like you was in your in your dad's footsteps, or did it ever go away?
no, like people, it's so funny because people say I voted for you because your dad was my judge. I because they don't know who they recognize the El Amin name and they're like, your dad was my judge. Your dad, you know, gave my boyfriend hell, or gave my baby mama hell. Because he was a fair judge, right? And so we're a great team, and when I became president of the Bar Association, the J. Franklin Bourne Bar Association, which is a bar association for Montgomery and Prince George's County. It's one of the largest minority bars association in the state of Maryland. So I think I was like reporting secretary, corresponding secretary for a couple of years, and then I ran to become the president elect, and then the president. And that I was able to move and around the county and build my own relationships. And so that's when I started to grow. I mean, and I, like I said, I was younger then, and so it's just a matter of being patient and taking on experiences and valuing the experience that you have and making the best out of all the situations.
Do you feel fulfilled now?
I'm Look, there's so much work to be done, and by no means am I done doing that work. But I am like I think I told some I used to tell people, I haven't said it recently, it should be illegal to be as happy as I am, right? Um, you know, like I said, I have an amazing team in the clerk's office. I've developed some incredible relationships, and being a leader, being the top or the head of an office or a business or organization, it's a lonely place, right? And because so many people are depending on you, you make so many decisions that can impact people's lives. And just having a network of people that I can uh trust and that can counsel me, and seeing the good work that we do and giving back to the community. I mean, I'm blessed. I'm so thankful. I no regrets.
God willing, you get appointed again,
Elected.
elected. I got to use that word, elected. What is what can the voters look forward to, and what would you look forward to?
Well, we are bringing the office into the 21st century. Under my leadership, we were able to go from paper filing to online case management, which basically sped up the processing times for filings. Before, when we were shifting papers all around, um, losing files, and misplacing, but files are in judges' chambers, they're in the paralegal's office, they're all over the courthouse. We couldn't process anything until we had the file. So we've gone from 7 to 10 business days of processing time. Really, realistically, we're processing things in under 48, or sorry, we'll say 2 business days. So we want to continue that. We are also working on being able to accept online payments. Right now, the only thing that we accept online payments for is if you're an attorney, you can pay for to open up a case, but we don't accept fines and fees. So I've been leading, well, I was leading the work group for that. We've passed it on to the project team now to bring where you can use Apple Pay, credit cards, and things like that. And eventually you'll be able to, you know, request documents and we can send them over to you electronically. Nothing in government moves fast, so it's a long process. You got to do it in stages. So I would love to see that come to fruition. Seeing how we went to online case filing known as MDAC, seeing it from the very beginning in Prince George's County to where we are now, is something to be proud of. I'm the longest serving clerk since 2001. I'm the first clerk to serve more than 2 terms, right? And so my staff has seen countless clerks come through, and they're not able to, have that consistency on a consistent basis, basically, that impacts morale, that impacts, customer service, that impacts the business process, because every 4 years you're getting somebody trying to learn their job. And like I said, like I told you at the beginning of this, I had no idea all the different things that the clerk's office does. I mean, we have a nearly $20 million budget. We bring in nearly $40 million or $42 million to the general fund for the state, and then part of that goes to the county. I didn't know that. And then every 4 years, you got a new person learning that. It's just a lot. And I have staff who've been there for 40 years. My chief deputy, my right hand person, Gary Mobley, I like to joke with him to say that I was like 5 years old when he started the clerk's office, because I really was. Yes, but we have people who have been there literally for 40 plus years, 35 plus years, right? And there's just so much institutional knowledge, and just being able to be a part of that. So just to be able to continue with the leadership, and being able to um offer that sense of, I would just say, just that calmness of stability, it goes a long way to the service in which we render to the public.
When is election day?
June 23rd. Election day is June 23rd. Early voting starts June 8th, goes from June 8th to June 15th. And you have to request your mail-in ballots, and I think they'll start going out and hitting boxes by early May. So it's right around the corner. We're like 70 something days away.
Okay. Well, I wish you all the best with the election. I'm trusting and praying that you'll get what would it be, your third or fourth term?
No, no, my third, yeah, my third time. It'll be
Third.
my
Okay.
third time. Yes. Yes, yes. Please support my reelection. You can always go to votemahasin.com to learn more. Follow me on the infamous social media, which is
Oh,
Mahasin.
you have social media handles?
Yeah, vote Mahasin.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll make sure to follow as well.
Yeah, excuse-moi. Yes.
Well,
I
okay,
was
so so look, let's not act like the algorithm shows us everything we need to see. So
yes. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I don't do the Twitter, and I don't do the TikTok. I just, it's just so much. I barely do LinkedIn. LinkedIn is Mahasin El Amin. I barely do LinkedIn because it's just too much.
so Instagram is vote Mahasin El Amin.
No, just vote Mahasin.
Oh, vote Mahasin. Vote
Yep,
Mahasin.
just vote Mahasin.
Okay. Vote Mahasin. Okay.
It's really
Well,
easy. Yep.
with again, thank you for doing this. Long overdue, but I'm glad we got it done at this time because this time
Yes.
it actually works better.
It
And
was a
also,
lot of fun.
congratulations to everything you've accomplished. 2 terms, that's already a great thing, and I'm looking forward to seeing you get a third.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you
Uh,
for having me.
thank you for doing it.
No problem.
I want to take the time to thank everyone for listening to the podcast and watching it. I truly appreciate your support. You can follow me on Instagram at conversations_with_Lent. My Facebook is also Conversations with Lent. You can listen to the podcast on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. You can watch it on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe. Again, thank you all for listening. Have a great day.